Hi, this is Jennifer with iCadenza, and I'm here with Max Levinson, who will be performing in a concert to honor Bruce Sutherland, one of the great piano teachers in Los Angeles, tomorrow night at Zipper Hall at the Colburn School in downtown LA. So tell me, Max, about your history with Bruce and when you started with him and what that was like for you. What role did he play for you as a teacher?
Well, he played a tremendous role. Of course, for any pianist, having a good teacher makes a huge difference. It's, of course, one ingredient is having just the talent and having desire and those kinds of things. But having the right guidance makes, of course, a huge difference. And I started studying with Bruce when I was 7. Before that, I had a wonderful teacher who was the sort of teacher who made music fun, which, of course, is extremely important. And we would dance around in the lessons and sing, and there was all that. And of course, I learned how to read music and some basics about playing the piano. But when I went to Bruce, I found out how some new things. You might say, first of all, he definitely had a much greater sense of the importance of being disciplined and having to learn technique and to play properly. And those things which were totally foreign to me, as you can imagine, at that age. And I remember in particular a lesson very early on where we were looking at this one piece of music. It was a Bach, I think it was a fugue or a invention or something. And we spent the entire hour on 3 measures. And of course, I thought I was going to die. This was the worst possible thing. I had no idea this was possible to spend an entire hour on 3 measures. And but some of the things that I learned from that experience were how important every note was, that every note that Bach wrote was there for a reason and should be played in a certain way. It was important to Bach. It was important to my teacher. He made me realize how important it ought to be to me, how I'm going to play. But I also discovered through that experience, as difficult as it was, how as much as a student, how much Bruce valued me, and not only me, but all of his students. He would do the same for anybody. That not after, okay, we've spent enough time on this passage, let's just give up. He wasn't going to stop until I got it right. And that kind of attitude is something that has really served me well through my life, to realize that I can't just let it go, that the music is so important and every note is so important. How should I play it? That's something I definitely learned from Bruce.
Mm-hmm. And for yourself, in addition to having a wonderful concert career, you're a teacher. And how does that play into your role as a pianist, and how has that shaped you as a musician?
That's a very good question. On the one hand, teaching creates some difficulty with playing because it's just one more activity to juggle your schedule and to do all those different things. It is harder on days when I have a long teaching schedule to find time to practice, or when I have a lot of concerts. Then sometimes it's hard for me to figure out when am I going to meet with my students. And however, the thing that I love about teaching is that, as a pianist in particular, can be a very lonely life. I've had many experiences in my life where I spend 3 weeks just going from place to place playing concerts, and I'm by myself just in a hotel room or in a rental car, in a plane. And, if you play in a string quartet, at least you have your colleagues, that you see. You may not want to see them every day, but there they are. So the music that we as pianists make is so often just on our own, or kind of like a one-night stand, you might say, with the conductor. You meet with the conductor and you play the concert and you move on. With a student, it gives me the opportunity to have several years of real close interaction with somebody, and to know about music, about something that really matters to me, about something that matters to them. So I do really enjoy that. I've definitely learned as a performer from my experience teaching. Sometimes my students have good ideas and I just steal them. But aside from that, also just having to give even more thought to the music that they're playing, it definitely affects the way I play.
Mm-hmm. So I spoke with Rufus a little while ago, and he said this concert is like a reunion for all of Bruce's students from way back when. So what's it like being part of that and seeing all of these kids you grew up with learning to play the piano?
Well, it's great. We all look older, some of us heavier, but it's great. Rufus, for example, when I knew him first he was probably, I don't know, 9 years old, 10 years old, and now he's all grown up and he's a wonderful artist. And I remember as a kid, one thing that Bruce would have some of us students who were at different levels and different ages was we might accompany somebody else in a let's say in a concerto. And so Rufus was one that I did have to play with him on a number of occasions. And that gave me the opportunity actually to also to help him a little bit because I was further along than he was at that age. And the thing I've told Rufus that turned out to be really valuable, that experience, not only from an artistic point of view, but I was playing with him once in a competition, and then out in the hallway, there was a woman who walked by and heard the accompanist playing the Tchaikovsky piano concerto accompaniment, that was me, with somebody, and thought, boy, that person is a really good accompanist. I wonder who that is. And this woman turned out to be the mother of my wife. Well, she wasn't my wife yet, but who's a cellist, and said, my daughter should know who this guy is. And so that turned out to be very valuable for lots of reasons. But it's great to see everybody, how they've grown and matured. And what's also great is to see how much all of us different students have come together. There's so much excitement about just wanting to pay tribute to Bruce. We started to have this idea, a few months ago, wouldn't it be nice to do a concert primarily as a fundraiser for a foundation that he's started to support young musicians. And then we realized, let's take the chance to show Bruce how much he's meant to us, and so it's everybody I think has been really eager to get involved.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. So tell us about what you're playing tomorrow night and your feelings about the music.
Well, I'm playing a few different things. First of all, I'm playing a little bit of solo music. I'm playing the Schumann Kinderszenen, the Scenes from Childhood. It's a piece that I wanted to play in part because I love the piece, but also it's a piece I studied with Bruce. It seems fitting to play something called Seeds from Childhood when it's really reminiscing back to the teacher I spent a large number of hours of my childhood with, from age 7 to about 16. Was when I was studying with him. So that's part of it. So I was glad to play that piece. I'm also playing two pieces that Bruce wrote. One is a solo piece that he wrote, a very brief prelude that he wrote, and then there's a piece for two pianos, which John Novacek and I are doing together. We're still in the process of learning how that piece really is supposed to go. Bruce seems to be very happy with how we're playing it, so that's good. The composer likes it. And then finally, the last piece on the program, our big grand finale, sort of a silly piece, is a piece by a composer whose name I believe is Lavignac, called Gallop March. It's supposed to be for 4 pianists at 1 piano, which is already silly enough to try and squeeze 4 at 1 piano. We've doubled that. We're having 8 pianists at 2 pianos so that we could have even more of Bruce's former students to get up there and join in the fun. And it's a silly piece, but it's fun.
That's great. So can you tell me a little bit about what your approach is when you start a piece of music? How do you break it down and analyze it, and how do you start?
That's a good question. How do you start? Normally, I just take out the music and I start playing it. And as I live with it and I play it more, as I sleep and dream and take walks and things like that, the music kind of digests in a way. I definitely do what I can at the outset to try and look very carefully at what the composer wrote. Is it staccato? Is it legato? Is it forte? Is it mezzo forte? Those kinds of things. And try to take all those things as literally as I can at first. After a while, hopefully those markings just become natural. My ideal, I should say, as I'm playing a piece is that it sounds like an improvisation, like it sounds like I made it up instead of Beethoven or Brahms. I hope that I can absorb the piece that much that I'm playing it the way that they want it to be played, but that it sounds like natural to me as well. But there, the hardest part sometimes is getting started. Where do I begin with this piece? But just start figuring it out. And I like to tell my students that there's no piece that they can't already play, as long as they play it slowly enough and things like that. You have to start from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Do you have any upcoming concerts or projects that you're looking forward to?
Definitely. A violinist friend of mine named Stefan Jakiv, he and I have a CD coming out pretty soon of all the Brahms sonatas. That's coming out, I think, very soon anyway on Sony. So we're excited about that. Was really fun to make, great pieces. and we're very happy with the way that it came out. This next year, 2010, is going to be Chopin and Schumann's 200th anniversary for both of their births. So at Boston Conservatory, I decided to organize a kind of Schumann festival. We're having 6 concerts, a lot of piano music, but also some of the songs and chamber music. So I'm putting together this series of concerts, which is going to involve myself, of course, and other faculty, as well as a lot of students. There'll also be some lectures and master classes. So that's another big project that I'm working on.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thanks so much for speaking with me, and we're really looking forward to hearing you play tomorrow night.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks.